you know, that's something we should restrict.
This is residential, this is supposed to be for homeowners to bring stuff that they have at their house.
Couches, chairs, because
This is not for contractors to bring.
the sad part is if we don't do it, we're gonna see the chairs and the couches laying out back in the alleys, and we end up cleaning them up anyhow.
I think we should do it. Let's look at shortening it. I think that's one thing that'll help. And then somehow we have to police that we don't have contractors and stuff bringing. I mean, this is for homeowners who don't have the ability to get rid of stuff. Give them an opportunity to clean up the property.
You're gonna come back with a,
Yeah, I'd like to give it one more meeting so I can sit down with municipal authority, Tom and Dan, and whoever else involved with it, and find out exactly if we can streamline the dates and set some kind of restrictions on what can be hauled in.
yeah, just write up some new rules.
Okay.
I know there's one other thing for discussion. Mr. Shipman's here. Would you like to,
I'm Bill Shipman, and I'm here again about the street. I'm concerned about what's by my house, with some deep thought and interest in preserving history and stuff for our community. I asked if the street could be changed to the Horn Railroad situation, and originally last week you guys said it probably could be Horn Railroad Street. I really hadn't had time to think about that at the time. You said at the end of the meeting, make sure you get it together and present exactly what you want. So before a map is made, I kind of spoke with Dale and the gentleman at 911 about the map, and I requested that the street be changed to South Horn Railroad Path. And I requested that because trains never operate on avenues, boulevards, or streets. Don't pull into the path of the train or you're going to be in trouble. So actually the Horn Railroad, which will go by my property, or did go by my property, and I can have pictures of it, train traveling path. So I would like, one more time, to ask the mayor and the council here to change that street to South Horn Railroad Path, because I'm on the south side of town.
Well, you guys should have all got email that was forwarded to me from the 911 center. It automatically will be called south because it's on that side of the street.
Right.
But the path is kind of an issue, even though they said the post, and I don't have that in front of me because I didn't realize you were here. But they did say that path could technically be used. They don't recommend it because streets or names are not recognized as a path. And that's the whole part of the 911 addressing, is a street, an alley, or a boulevard. We're not, if you want like a path, paint it on your building and make it look pretty. But we're trying to keep it, and you said earlier about New York. I can't explain to you what New York does. I'm just telling you what we're trying to do here in Sunbury Town. So,
Did you just say that the post office would accept path?
they would recognize it, but they don't recommend it because it's not a street name.
Or they would recognize it?
But then what happens is, we all know Bill and we like Bill, but what happens when we change her street? She comes in and says, I wanted this. We go to his street, he says, I wanted this. Are we gonna change every street or what somebody wants it to be called? So that, I'll tell you right now, it's gonna get too complicated, and I don't want to be involved with
Well,
it.
the only reason he wants path is because he just explained. the
I know what he
railroad path.
explained.
I don't want path down my house.
Right, but for the 911 system, they like the street, alley, boulevard scenario for the road. So,
we got the South Horn Railroad part,
Yes,
right? So you're much further ahead than you were the first time you came here.
I agree.
You want to flip a coin?
and then it was explained that like he didn't understand like 60. And typically they try to go in a city street like 11 feet. So let's say that building in front and Shamokin Street now, whatever, torn down, something will be built. And they put the doors on Warren Railroad Street, or wherever. And they put that, it gives you your addresses then. So technically he's a little over halfway down that that section from Market to Port. That's how they came up with 60.
And again, I accept that, I have no problem with that. If that's how it goes, if 60 gotta be my number, then so be it.
Like I
But
said, I understand what Bill's saying, but then we gotta be prepared every time we go to change the street. If somebody doesn't like that, they come in here, because we did it for one, and we gotta do it for everybody.
Well, we're only changing this because he has to change his address, correct?
Yes,
We don't have other spots in Sunbury in this situation, do we?
Yeah, there could be places changed. Mrs. Campbell, some of her places are gonna be changed. We got Chief Matt, or Matt, Steve told me about a place up on Susquehanna Avenue. There's no numbers at all. There's quite a few places in town that are gonna be changed.
But we're not,
Man-
we're just changing the numbers, we're not changing the street.
No.
Susquehanna
Right,
Avenue.
some of, well, we haven't got that
Second
far yet, I don't know. Because one of the streets that we are gonna name them, like that list that we started, you know, if there's an address on there, that's gonna have to go with that at that point. You know, like Manicure, they're gonna have to change theirs, because their address is actually even number. It's gonna have to go over.
Well, how many streets in the city have they actually changed the name itself? How many?
We have,
name?
this is the first one, we're just now getting started.
You're talking about the streets that need to be renamed completely. That's what he's talking about, correct?
Right.
His is the only one right now.
Well, we were just gonna let it Shamokin Street, but he didn't like that.
Well, let me ask you, Bill, if you had your choice between Street, Avenue, or Boulevard, which one of those would you want?
You don't have to answer tonight.
Railroad
You have my number, Paul.
Railroad Avenue.
Railroad Avenue sounds good to me.
Railroad Avenue used to be Edison.
So we're just bringing it back.
so what you're saying to me at this point is it can't be passed?
I just asked you a question.
Well, I'm asking you a question.
What's your mind first? If you had to choose between Street, Avenue, and Boulevard, which would you like?
Well, preferably Avenue, but I still,
We'll get, last week Bill was supposed to come down, but we had major computer problems, and actually we had a problem again this morning when we started up. I'll get with Bill again this week, he's gonna come down and we'll sit down with the 911 people, and he can meet them in person, and then they can show him the reasoning behind it.
okay.
Brad, Chief, renaming, I don't know if that means we're
Pardon me?
renaming, correct?
I don't know, but
New
trains
names,
don't travel.
yes, we have some new names, okay?
Right. And I said it wrong after I said it, but I realized what
But this might only be the only situation we run into this. And if we would make it path, down the road, we come back and say, Bill, you lost out in the end, you lost your path.
The other thing about that, I mean, I don't really want to be on the warpath here, but I kind of like to see it.
Theoretically, like I said, down there where Josh used to have his garage at, they're using, what's that street called?
Short Wolverton.
Short Wolverton. That's gonna be changed now also to Horn Railroad Avenue. So they're technically getting all theirs changed. I think there's 2 or 3 businesses in there.
Could you use way? Or railway?
No, Horn Railroad Path Street.
Talk to Bill about that, Julie, see if you can convince him.
I'll get a hold of you, Bill.
That's what they on railroad,
Pardon me,
on railroad.
Horn Railroad. Well, that's going to be on there for
Yeah,
what?
well, it's a road, so there you go.
Just leave it Horn Railroad
Yeah.
without being Street, Avenue, or whatever?
Bill, just call me, we'll come down this week.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Shipman. Audience comment? Yes, sir.
Sir, the schedule you picked, can I get that to Chief Barrett?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
He has it. He might even have a copy with him, but I'm sure if not, he'll have it tomorrow.
Sent to you right now.
Okay.
There you go.
Since Article 13 does not allow you to change our contract, I would remind you to still like me when you get what you're saying.
Okay, we can do that.
Okay, thank you. You're welcome.
And I assume, Steve, that is a meeting with the mayor, you're not requesting a second meeting with council? Because
Ackman one,
that's
very
done.
specific, would be the mayor, and, yes, sir.
Very good, thank you.
You're welcome, sir. Pleasure as always.
Why don't you take a day or two and look at the schedule first, and then,
Well, my schedule's probably a lot less busy than your schedule, so,
well, I know Thursday, I just have a cancellation, so maybe we can do it on Thursday.
Thursday's fine by me. Want to do that?
Okay.
Let me know what time.
How does 4:15 work for you? That always works for me. You're talking about the grievance?
No, I'm talking about our contract.
Oh, the contract,
We're going
okay.
to contract.
All right, and you want to just meet with me on that?
You talk about yourself, or Mike, you and Mike, or you and Mike and John, or whatever you want to do,
Okay.
whatever you're comfortable with.
This is,
Sounds great, I'll look at my schedule.
yeah, Mike, if he's gonna be there, yeah. He didn't get this canceled probably, that guy.
4:15? Sounds great. Mayor's office?
Yes.
John, you good with that?
Okay.
Any other questions?
No,
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Oh, no problem.
Dick, I have a question about the article that was in the paper on Wednesday, March 18th, where you raised concern about the 12-hour shift schedule,
Mhm.
and you indicated that you did not think it would be fair for citizens to wait to have an investigation done because of the way the 12-hour schedule would work. How long would it be if you continued to cut officers? How long would it be for investigations if you continue to cut officers?
We're more referring to incidents, and in other words, if the last day of a guy's shift is Friday night and something happens and he takes the next 8 days off, it's not an investigation as much as we can reply back to somebody. And that's been an ongoing thing. The investigations themselves have been for years and years. I mean, we prioritize because we don't have enough people. We haven't had a detective for, wow, I don't know, 10, 15 years as far as that goes. So that's always been a prioritized.
Who was the last detective? Was it Blaze?
Yes.
Yeah, Dick Stark did it for a long time, and then Blaze was after him. I don't think it was anybody after Blaze.
Blaze would have been online.
Yeah, he would have been the last one,
I
yeah.
think it's good to let everybody know that under the current 12, or the previous 12-hour schedule, every 5th week, every officer had a whole week off.
Yeah, and I can show you study after study as far as 12-hour shifts, as far as production that you get from 12 hours. Again, the week off every month, you throw 4 weeks of vacation in, and you throw two weeks of personal time in. Before you know it, you have a third of the year you don't have to work. And not that they don't work and they get their hours in, but it's just not beneficial to the city, especially when we got less officers. That was the main reason we did it. So that's why we want to change from that 12 hours.
Okay.
Mr. Benny,
I wasn't gonna comment, but I have to, Mayor.
you're allowed to do that, sir.
You say the 12-hour schedule gives a 7-day break and therefore no one follows up on investigations. On the current 8-hour schedule, it is a 7-day night that we work. So you do not contact people at all because you don't come in till 11 o'clock and you go home at 7 in the morning.
Right.
Okay? So you do that for 7 days. But before that, you have 2 days off. So now it's up to 9 days. After that, you're off for 4. So it's 13 days. The 8-hour schedule gives you 13 days that you can't contact people to do follow-up on. So the 8-hour schedule is horrible for contacting and doing follow-up on your investigations.
I think if you were using the same schedule week after week, but I think the thing rotates, so you're not working third shift for 3 weeks in a row.
You work third shift every 3 weeks. I work first shift, second shift, third shift, first shift, second shift,
I
third.
don't know, is that the way the new one is, Chief? No. Why don't we take a look at the new one and see if it has any better? Any other question?
Yeah, can I ask you a question? The last peace contract, I take it you agreed to 12-hour shifts when the contract was negotiated?
The 12 hours negotiated, it was always the understanding when I come back into election, when I got reelected and got back into office, the thing that we would go with the 12 hours as long as it benefited the people. And at that time, we probably had 13 or 14 officers. Now we're down to 11 officers, so that clearly played a fact in it.
And to further respond to your question, to be crystal clear, the contract said 12 hours, but it also gave the mayor the full authority to change to an 8-hour shift if in good faith he found that that was a better way to manage the police department. And the language is right in the contract.
Any other questions? Okay, the brush pile will be open March 28th from 7:30 to 12. Anything else, Dale, on that?
No. 'Cause Sunbury residents only.
Well, we have somebody that just checks, is that how we do it? We check, so we can probably do the same thing we have the cleanup, right?
Well,
Or is that an issue? Isn't some of the residents an issue in the cleanup?
I think it's pretty well
Okay.
monitored now, pretty good, so.
Right.
I'm not saying somebody doesn't sneak in. You know, I could drive in and go down to my brother's house and shoot over the dam and bring it over a little bit.
Okay. But, and you're gonna always have it.
Right.
Street sweeper, you wanna, again, it's April 6th?
Yeah, they've been out sweeping a little bit, trying to get, make sure to get the cobwebs off, and actually, we had a problem last week with it, so we had to get fixed, so.
Notice, warning notices about 1 week before and that's it. And after that, they start ticketing on April 6th.
And Dan, something else.
Schedules up front, people,
It
please
seems
pick
as
them
though
up when
there's
you
quite
leave.
a few lights throughout the city that are burned out.
What's that?
It seems like there's quite a few lights throughout the city that are burned out.
Yes, there is. What's our count right now?
What section?
We know where they're at. He has them all marked.
There's 15 out on Front Street and there is 20 plus out on Mark Street right now.
There's been one up by the hospital that at least over a year.
That's not ours.
On the street, 11th Street?
P&L.
Really?
Seriously.
If you get that poll number and call down to City Hall, we'll call PPL.
Okay,
There should be a number, every PPL poll has an ID number on it.
okay,
No within a week they'll get that, if you call the ID number in.
okay.
Yes.
And on North Second Street in the 800 block, I don't know who this falls to, but that grate in the back, the stormwater, you know, where it floods, that is sinking down below street level.
You mean right there behind your place, Julie?
That'd be the place.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
The roads are horrible, the alleys are horrendous, this winter was brutal
Yeah, we
to us.
gotta do a lot of coal patches, so.
Yeah, but it's the actual grate that's falling down into the system.
Whole south.
I've seen more grates this year driving around sunken in than I've ever seen.
It was a brutal winter, no question about it. All right, I want to thank everybody for coming. I'm sorry?
Question, Dave. Hey,
Will you just ask your name for the record?
yeah, Michael Wright.
Michael Wright, okay,
Keith's
sir.
known me since I was a kid. I wrote that article about Gary Heckman in the newspaper the other month. And I don't understand how we can lay off any more officers with the crimes that we have around this town. I lived here 40 years, and the crimes have just gotten worse and worse over the years. You're talking about them working 12 hours and them working more overtime and whatnot. How can we afford to get rid of any other officers that we need in this town that has grown so drastically over the past 30 years? How can we afford to get rid of other officers?
This was done last December. We had budget debates and meetings. I don't know if you were at any of those meetings or not, but there was debates for I don't know, I bet we had 10 meetings a month in December alone. So this was all done over the budget. At that time, there were supposed to be 2 officers laid off. What happened was, I was hoping for and this has happened in the past in history, that the last week of the year, you get a lot of income that comes in as far as taxation. And I was hoping to get that surplus and then be able to turn right around and put that in the budget. That did not come about. When it came to the end of the year, we did not have a surplus. There was no money put in. So what we did is took that $50,000 or $60,000 that we did have, and so we could keep Officer Heckman on as long as we did. We're now, that budget, that line item is gone. So again, this was actually done last November.
So Officer Heckman's now off? Is he
Oh yeah,
now?
it was done as of Friday, and that was, like I said, that was agreed on in January, or in December of last year. The goal that we have, and the chief and I talk about this all the time, is to make sure that we meet our goals for our income, and to make sure that we can find ways to generate revenue so we don't go through this battle at the end of this year again and talk about laying more off. We want to be able to maintain and hopefully bring people back, and that's what we're working on right now to try to do that.
You know, we have cops down there that actually care about this community now. I just don't see how we can get rid of them.
Well, I just explained.
He turned my life around. He turned my life around over 7 years ago.
Yep.
Okay? You would never see me at a council meeting or write an article about an officer to the Daily Item 8 years ago. I used to sell marijuana for 20 years. Okay, that man had totally turned my life around 360 degrees, and what do you do? You get rid of them. I just don't get it.
It was all by seniority, but you're right, we have a lot of good police officers. Every police officer down there, and that's what we're trying to do, and they do a good job what they have, and And again, we're trying to make it a more efficient department and live within our realm of 11 officers. Anything else?
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
this is in reply to that. There's a lot of officers that are good, I'm sure of that, but every police officer is just as likely as anyone else to commit a crime. And it's been my experience with Heckman and Bennett that when they do commit crimes, a lot of times they get away with it. The fellow officers will cover up for them, and they refuse to file charges against them. You know, Heckman and Bennett both assaulted me back almost 2 years ago now. Neither one of them faced any consequences for what they did. Sure, maybe they've done a few good things, but when they do something bad like that, they should see the same consequences as anybody else.
If you had proof, you would have shown it by now, and you have it.
I do have proof.
All right, we're not here to debate it, but thank you for your opinion.
You want to hear the proof?
Not for something that happened 2 years ago.
Oh, you don't want to hear about it? Doesn't matter to you?
If it happened 2 years ago and there's
was
nothing
less
ever
than 2
filed, was
years
anything
ago.
filed, was there any?
There were
I-
charges filed against me that dismissed in court.
Okay. But anytime you want to bring proof for something, my office door is always open.
I can tell you everything you need to know to prove it.
Well, then call the city clerk and arrange a meeting in my office. Well, I'll meet you down there sometime. You know, I usually get back into town at like 4:15, so, or if you can, I'll talk to you in the evening.
And what we do about it is do some proof.
I'm sorry, I haven't seen anything yet, so I can't tell you what I would do about something if I don't know what
The
we're
last
talking
time I
about.
talked to you about it, you said nothing happened.
Well, did you bring anything in my office to prove anything different?
If you look at the complaint they filed against me, that's all you should need to know. And also, they claimed that they did it because they thought I was somebody that had the last name Bennick. But Officer Bennick clearly said that I was not that guy before they attacked me. Heckman lied and said it was somebody else.
Allegedly, right, correct?
No, this
Allegedly.
is true.
Chief, this sounds like a
Okay.
police matter, not a council matter. Am I
Exactly.
correct? Okay, we'll leave it to you, Chief.
So if you, my door is always open if you want to come talk to me sometime.
Well, I don't think the job they're doing, I don't think it's worth spending half the city budget on it. They don't even take care of their own crimes they commit.
All right, your time to do your bit. Thank you. Anything else? I want to thank everybody for coming. Meeting's adjourned.
I'll get that to you.
It's 8 hours.